group of friends on a road trip receive increasingly disturbing Snapchat messages from a friend who stayed behind. As they realize she's in danger and someone is tracking them through her account, they rush back to find her and discover the terrifying truth about their stalker. I never thought a simple road trip could turn into such a nightmare. It started out as a fun adventure. Me, Joshua, and my friends decided to take a week off and hit the road, exploring some cool spots and documenting our journey on Snapchat. Everyone was so excited. We had this whole plan mapped out like a bucket list of places we wanted to see. I mean, what could go wrong, right? So, there was me, Mike, Jess, and Sam. Jess couldn't come along because of some work stuff, so she stayed home, but she was always up to date with our snaps. She'd comment on everything like, "That's so cool," or "I wish I was there," and we'd reply with pictures and goofy videos. It was like she was with us, but, not really. Things were awesome for the first few days. We visited some beautiful parks, quirky diners, and a couple of those weird roadside attractions you only hear about. All this time we were snapping everything, our meals, the places we visited, even those stupid moments like Mike trying to do a cartwheel and failing miserably. Jess was always there, virtually. Her snaps and messages kept coming in like, "Be safe," or "I miss you guys." But then, something changed. On the third night after we settled in this cozy little motel, Joshua started getting these weird snaps from Jess. It was odd because they weren't like her usual ones. They were just pictures of random places, like a park bench, a street corner, and then, her face but looking distressed. The captions were even weirder, like "Help" and "I'm scared." At first, we thought she was messing with us. Jess had a bit of a dark sense of humor, and maybe she was just trying to freak us out. But then, more snaps came in, and they got creepier. One was a picture of her sitting in what looked like her room, but she wasn't alone. There was a shadow of someone behind her, and the caption said, "He's watching me." We tried calling her, texting her, everything, but no response. Mike and Sam started getting freaked out too. We were in the middle of nowhere, in a tiny motel, and our friend back home was sending us what looked like a cry for help. We didn't know what to do. Should we go back? Call the police? The next morning, Joshua got another snap. It was Jess, but she looked terrified. She was whispering, "You have to help me. He's following you too. He knows everything." The message was so distorted, it was hard to understand, but the fear in her eyes was real. We decided to cut our trip short and head back. We couldn't leave her like that. But then, as we were packing up, I got a notification. It was a snap from Jess. But how? I wasn't even on her snap list. The snap was a map. It showed our exact location. And then another message popped up. "I can see you." That's when it hit us. Someone was using Jess's Snapchat to track us. The location sharing feature was on, and whoever had Jess was now watching us. Panic set in. We jumped into the car and just drove. We didn't know where, just away from there. But no matter how far we went, the snaps kept coming. Pictures of our car, the road we were on, the places we passed. Whoever it was, they were always a step ahead. We finally stopped at a police station in the next town. We showed them everything. The snaps, the messages, all of it. The officers took it seriously and started an investigation. They traced the snaps back to Jess's place. When they got there, they found her phone, but no Jess. The place looked like it had been searched or ransacked. It took a couple of days, but they finally caught the guy. He was some creep who had been stalking Jess for months, using Snapchat to monitor her and then us. He had hacked into her account and was using the location sharing feature to keep tabs on us. Jess was found tied up in a basement, scared but alive. The whole experience shook us. We couldn't believe how something as innocent as sharing your location on social media could turn into such a dangerous situation. We decided to share our story, not just to vent, but to warn others. It's easy to forget how much of your life you're putting out there for the world to see. So, if you're reading this, be careful. Check your privacy settings. Don't share your location unless you're absolutely sure, and trust your instincts. What happened to us was terrifying, but it could have been much worse. We were lucky to get Jess back. Not everyone is that lucky. A man named Matthew experiences a series of strange Snapchat glitches, with personal snaps disappearing mysteriously. Realizing someone is hacking his account, he investigates with the help of a friend and discovers a jealous co-worker, Ben, is behind the sabotage. They gather evidence, leading to Ben's firing and a renewed sense of digital caution for Matthew. Subscribe to our channel for spine-chilling, real-life scary stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. You won't lose anything, but you'll gain thrilling tales and a community of fellow horror enthusiasts. Join us if you dare. You know how you sometimes get those weird tech glitches and you just brush them off? Like it's no big deal, just another quirk of the digital age. That's how it started for me. My name's Matthew, and what I thought was just a harmless Snapchat bug turned into a real-life nightmare. It all began when I got this snap from my friend Steven. It was about a private party he was hosting. Nothing wild, just a small get-together with close friends. The snap had the date, time, and his new address. I replied with a thumbs-up emoji, and that was that. Or so I thought. A couple of days later, I went back to check the details, and the snap was gone. At first I shrugged it off. Maybe Steven deleted it or something. But then it happened again. I got another snap from a different friend, Lisa, sharing some personal stuff about her recent breakup. We chatted a bit, and the next day, her snaps were gone too. That's when I started to feel uneasy. I'm not a tech genius, but I know my way around social media. I figured maybe there was a bug in the app, so I updated it, restarted my phone, the usual drill. But the problem didn't go away. More snaps kept disappearing, and only the ones with personal or sensitive information. I mentioned it to Steven when I saw him at work. He joked about it, saying maybe my phone was haunted, but I could tell he was a bit concerned too. We both worked at a marketing firm, and in our line of work, losing information can be a big deal. Steven suggested I reach out to Snapchat support, so I did. Their response was pretty generic, something about reinstalling the app and checking my settings. It didn't help. One night, I was lying in bed scrolling through my snaps when I noticed something weird. I got a snap from my colleague Mark, who was working on a confidential project with me. He sent over some draft ideas, and as I watched the snap, it suddenly disappeared right in front of my eyes. My heart started racing. This wasn't just a glitch. I called Mark immediately, but he didn't pick up. The next morning at work, I confronted him about it. He looked at me like I was crazy. I didn't delete anything, he said. Why would I? That's when it hit me. Someone was in my account, selectively deleting snaps. I changed my password, added two-factor authentication, and did everything I could think of to secure my account. But the disappearing snaps didn't stop. Whoever was doing this was still in there somehow. It was driving me nuts. One evening, I was having drinks with Steven and a few other friends, venting about the whole situation. Steven, who had always been the more paranoid type, suggested we do a little digging of our own. Think about it, he said. Who would have a reason to mess with you like this? That's when it all started to come together. I remembered a few months back, there was this incident at work. A co-worker, Ben, had been gunning for the same promotion as me. When I got the job, he didn't take it well. I thought he'd moved on, but maybe he hadn't. Steven and I decided to test our theory. I sent a snap to myself from Steven's phone with some fake but juicy information about a project we were working on. Sure enough, within an hour, the snap was gone. We had our guy. But proving it was another story. We needed concrete evidence. Steven, being the tech whiz he is, suggested we set up a trap. We created a dummy account and used it to send snaps that would bait the hacker into revealing themselves. We also installed a third-party app to monitor any unusual activity. It took a couple of days, but we finally caught a break. The dummy account showed signs of being accessed from an unfamiliar IP address. We traced it back, and it led us straight to Ben's apartment. We had him. With this evidence, we went to our boss and laid everything out. The company's IT department got involved, and they were able to dig deeper into Ben's activities. Turns out he'd been accessing not just my Snapchat, but also other personal accounts, trying to sabotage my work and personal life. Ben was fired and reported to the authorities. It was a mess, but at least it was over. The whole ordeal left me paranoid about digital security. I'm way more cautious now about what I share online and who I trust. So, if you're listening to this, take my advice. Keep an eye on your accounts, use strong passwords, and never underestimate what someone might do out of jealousy or spite. What happened to me could happen to anyone. Be careful out there. Anthony receives a panicked Snapchat from his sister Lisa, begging for help at an old warehouse. Rushing there, he finds the place deserted and discovers Lisa never sent the snap. Realizing someone used deepfake technology to lure him, Anthony starts receiving more disturbing snaps, eventually identifying the culprit as Tom, a vengeful ex-co-worker. With the police's help, Tom is arrested, and Anthony learns to be more cautious with his digital presence. You ever have one of those moments where your heart just stops? Like, you know something is wrong and you can't explain why, but you feel it deep in your gut. That's what happened to me, Anthony, on that day. It started out just like any other. I was at work, going through the motions, when my phone buzzed. It was a snap from my sister Lisa. Lisa and I are close. We've always had each other's backs, especially after our parents passed away a few years ago. So when I saw her crying in the snap, begging for help, my stomach dropped. She looked terrified, her makeup running, eyes wide with fear. "Anthony, please help me. I'm at the old warehouse by the tracks. Hurry," she cried, and then the snap ended. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys and bolted out of the office. I didn't even tell my boss where I was going. The only thing on my mind was getting to Lisa. The old warehouse she mentioned was in a remote part of town, a place we used to play as kids, but hadn't been to in years. As I sped through the city, my mind was racing just as fast. Why was she there? What happened? I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. My anxiety skyrocketed. The drive felt like an eternity. But finally, I reached the warehouse. I jumped out of the car and ran inside, shouting her name. The place was empty, completely deserted. Panic set in. I called her again, and this time she picked up. "Lisa, where are you? Are you okay?" I blurted out. She sounded confused. "Anthony, I'm at home. What's going on?" I froze. "But the snap. You sent me a snap saying you needed help." "Anthony, I didn't send you any snap. I've been home all day," she said, her voice steady but concerned. That's when it hit me. Someone was using deepfake technology to mimic Lisa and lure me into a trap. My mind was spinning. Who would do this, and why? I drove back home, my thoughts a jumbled mess. When I got there, Lisa and I talked it through. We both agreed it had to be someone who knew us well, someone with a grudge. But who? Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I got a snap notification, my heart skipped a beat. I started analyzing every snap, looking for any signs of manipulation. I even reached out to some tech-savvy friends for help, but deepfakes are tricky. They're designed to look real after all. Then, out of the blue, I got another snap. This time, it was from a number I didn't recognize. It was a video of me, from that day at the warehouse, frantically searching for Lisa. The caption read, "Did you enjoy our little game?" I was furious. Who was doing this? And why? I showed it to Lisa, and we decided it was time to involve the police. They took it seriously, but without solid evidence, there wasn't much they could do. It felt like we were trapped in a nightmare with no way out. Days turned into weeks, and I was constantly on edge. Then one night I got another snap. This one was different. It was a video of a man, his face partially obscured, but I recognized his voice. "Remember me, Anthony? You ruined my life, and now it's payback time." That's when it clicked. The voice belonged to Tom, an old co-worker I'd had a falling out with years ago. He'd been fired after a major screw-up on a project we were both working on, and he blamed me for it. I never thought he'd hold a grudge for this long, let alone go to such lengths for revenge. With this new information, I went back to the police. They were able to trace the snaps back to Tom's location. When they arrested him, they found all the evidence they needed: his computer, the deepfake software, and a diary detailing his plan to ruin my life. Tom was charged with multiple cybercrimes and is now behind bars. The whole ordeal left me and Lisa shaken, but we're stronger for it. I've learned to be more cautious about my digital footprint and to never underestimate what someone might do out of revenge. So, if you're listening to this, be careful with your online interactions. What happened to me was terrifying, and it could happen to anyone. Stay vigilant, protect your information, and always trust your gut.